Rise for the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the village board meeting of December 12th. Roll call, please.
Kraus.
Here.
Beecher.
Here.
Giannotti.
Here.
Terry.
Here.
Stacy.
Here.
Kraus.
Here. No one's gonna mention anything about the elf on the shelf?
Pardon?
No one's gonna mention anything about the elf on the shelf?
No, we're going to
He's
ignore him.
observing the
We're going to ignore him for now. In your packet, you have minutes for the last meeting. If no one has any changes or additions, would someone like to make a motion to approve?
Make motion.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call.
Kraus.
Yes.
Beecher.
Yes.
Giannotti.
Yes.
Terry.
Yes.
Stacy.
Abstain.
Kraus.
Yes.
Okay, before we get into the audience recognition, we actually have an employee that we're going to recognize. Police chief would like to.
Thank you, Mayor. Today, we're honoring Jeff Young. Jeff, come on up. Jeff started here on Wednesday, it'll be 30 years. And when Jeff started here, President H.W. Bush was president. The average price of gas was $1.13. A stamp was 29 cents. And the average household income was $30,000. And the federal minimum wage was $4 an hour. So Jeff's put in a lot of time here. 30 years of dedicated service is a long time. It really needs to be recognized. So we got him a very handsome certificate of recognition. And more importantly, a gift certificate to Tony's Restaurant. For all his hard work.
There we go.
Big question is, did you have a lot of hair back
For all the officers that, let's say like Officer Drew, if the certificate isn't enough, 26 years from now, you'll get a Tony's Restaurant. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if the rest of them here had as much time on these things.
Thanks for that.
Okay. All right, and next, under recognition of audience, I see we have a couple of guests here, and you guys are here to speak. Okay, I'm going to kind of update the board a little bit. We have some gentlemen who are opening up a new business in town, and they've come in, they've had some inspections done, and we're running into some differences of opinion with our fire inspector as to what type of business it is and what the different ramifications are for opening. So I'd like you to, if you would be so good as to kind of just describe a little bit about what you're doing. And, and this is, by the way, the Cochrans. It's Frank and Frank.
Frank, yeah, Frank Jr.
Frank Jr., Frank Sr. Yeah.
So I guess I'll just stand it, so not over our head. So we are opening it's crypto mining. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of it, either a positive or a negative way recently. So we're only using about 5% of the building right now. The building is not going to be open to the public.
Thank you.
It's 516 Hodges. It used to be the insurance building over here. So it's not going to be open to the public. It's just going to be myself, my dad, and my mom. We're going to be mostly storing some stuff there, and then in the one room it's about 110 square feet with the window. It's 109, I believe. That is the one room we're actually going to be having machines in to begin with. Just to give you a context of what we're going to be putting in there. This is just like my personal computer. This would be considered essentially an editing computer. This is an example of what we're putting in there. We're not putting in those giant server racks. We're never planning on putting anything like that in there. We've talked with the fire department and we've agreed, once we go over, say, 60 of these, we have zero problem at that point classifying ourselves as a data center, putting a full-blown fire suppression system in there and doing all that. It's just at this point, we could be using our current electrical, we're just trying to kind of build the building out, looking kind of forward thinking, because a lot of the parts take about a year to get. So we, right now, are only gonna be using about 5 to 10 of these, and then as time goes on, hopefully expand in the city, or in the village, I mean. But so that's kind of our big thing, is the building is never gonna be open to the public. This is something I actually currently do in my apartment downtown. It's just I live in a 2-bedroom downtown, and I just started to overgrow doing it there. So that's our big thing. To give you some context in terms of like safety as to what's going on here, the room, it's not gonna be over 80 degrees Fahrenheit. I wouldn't be comfortable with these machines being in a room over 80 degrees Fahrenheit. At 100 degrees Fahrenheit, these turn off. They'll just shut themselves off. If a fan breaks, they shut themselves off. They're built in a way in which if anything abnormal happens, they just rather turn themselves off, because I can always just reset it and fix it the next day kind of thing. So there's not really any risk of these things getting too hot to a combustion level, nothing like that, so.
So we kind of, what started this whole thing is putting in a lot of electric. So they're thinking ahead to how this is going to, come up down the road, hopefully, if they continue to grow. So they put in 800 amp service.
Yeah, so then I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah.
gonna cut you off.
No, fine.
ComEd told us we are maxed out at 400 amps on single phase service. They'll put 200 amp meters in for us. So from an economic standpoint, it just made sense to have 800 amp service on 3-phase installed. And then we have all the plugs going into that one room there. That's, again, we already have a 200 amp main breaker in the building. We could just run, say, 10 220 plugs and run them there. Our big thing is, we're not planning on going anywhere, and hopefully, I plan on being successful in building out inside of Beecher. So our big thing is just from an economic standpoint, this service made the most sense in terms of money spent and performance gained, so.
And at this point, when you open, you're looking at, again, about how many?
5 to 10 machines, so at most, we should be using, say, 150 amps. So we would easily be able to do it and still run an AC and everything in that building. And then also to give context, the building does already have a 4-ton AC unit as well, so it's already air conditioned. That's the thing, is we don't foresee any issues with heat, but that's one of those things where if I walk into the room and it's over 80 degrees, I'm not even gonna be playing games. We've already spoken with HVAC people in terms of the full 800 amp service, what we would need. So we're prepared, and there's no question in terms of building out an HVAC system if we have to, or doing stuff like that, but at this point, we should not need to.
So what we ran into, and I believe you spoke to the fire inspector maybe a couple of months ago, I don't know how long ago that was.
Yes, yeah, so, in June, we met with Eric. When we spoke with him, he mentioned because the building is under 2,000 square feet, we would not need to do a lot of the things we do now, or we're being told we do now. We're now being told we do need to put like an Energen gas suppression system in, as well as the fireproofing walls. And speaking with him, again, like I was mentioning, once we go over 60, he was saying we for sure need the Energen system, the gas suppression system, and then the fireproofing is the big hang-up right now. We are without a doubt putting a fire alarm system in the building, that's not even a question. So if in the unlikely chance something happens, the fire department will be called in, and the rooms there's already existing, all those walls already exist, it's already all drywall. So there is already some level of fireproofing with those walls. I think Eric was saying either 45 minutes or an hour when you have, those are 2 half-inch drywall pieces.
And you have not put in anything new in this building? The
No.
building has it's
That's, that's the way we purchased the building.
Yep.
So there's been no new
And,
construction inside anything except for upgrading
No.
the electric service?
Yep, yeah, we just upgraded
Correct.
the electric and then paint some walls that have that like 80s wood paneling on it. So we're trying to bring it into this century, I said jokingly, but no, our big thing is and I say this to my dad a lot, I grew up in Michigan, in a town that's 5 square miles, so I love Beecher. I'm hoping to open a business here, build out, and I just wanna keep building here. We almost bought a building in Grant Park, and we picked Beecher because we like it so much here. So that's our big thing, is we're hoping to be able to build out what we do now, what we're able to now, and then obviously if, you know, if we're humping along later on, I'll have zero problem putting a full-blown system in there in terms of energy and gas, all that, so.
So I got called into a meeting with this, I believe it was Thursday, and it was, village administrator was there, these two gentlemen were here, our village inspector was on the phone, Eric from the fire district was here, the fire chief came in a little bit later, I think that was it in the room. So I was kinda new to this whole situation, so everything was explained to me, and where I'm kind of in an impasse with this is goalposts change on a regular basis when we're doing with fire inspections. And that's been kind of my issue with this. I looked at one of the emails you sent me, and one of the things that was referenced was some code from the 2020 edition of NFP 75, which we did not approve the 2020 edition, we approved the 2015 edition. When I got in on this meeting, they had agreed to the fire alarm system, but we were discussing fire suppression. And it seems to me like the whole big issue here is classifying the type of business they're in. So I actually spoke to the fire chief again today. We had a conversation, we had a discussion, I think Friday. It seems to be that somehow or another this has been classified as a data center. And here is where I even have a difference of opinion with the fire district. I don't call 5 little computers like that in the room a data center. I think you're wired for about how many right now, 40 of them?
40 is the maximum you can order.
40 of them, maybe, again, maybe it's semantics, that's not what I picture as a data center. I can't come up with a clear definition from the fire district as to what comprises a data center. We're supposed to speak again on Wednesday, but every time I try to very specifically ask, you know, how many specific computers do you need in order for this to be a data center? How big do they have to be? How much power do they have to draw? Tell me specifically in 2015 code what we're referring to in this situation that forces us to have fire suppression, or even, I mean, part of the problem is they jumped ahead a little bit and they put their electric in. But at this point, even to come up with a 2-hour firewall, which they're saying we have to put a 2-hour firewall just around that 109 square foot room. Right now it has about a 1-hour fire resistance. So they want a 2-hour firewall, which would require probably removing a lot of the electricity that was put in, putting another layer of drywall over it, and putting the electric back in. But even at that, I said, why does there have to be a 2-hour firewall on this room? And they said, because it's a data center. Right? And again, we got back to square one, what makes it a data center? So this is the impasse we're at, and I just, you know, if you guys have any input on this or questions or anything, we're at a point where our village inspector has approved the panel that was put in. I think he still has to inspect the electric on the inside possibly in order to approve that. Otherwise, our inspector has approved the project, but it's pending fire district approval. And there's different ways you can read our IGA that we signed with the fire district as to how you proceed if there's a difference of opinion on it. I have some thoughts on this, but I figured I'd turn it over to you guys first.
Who classifies as a data center? Like us, the
Fire
fire
district.
code?
Fire district.
Yeah, so our business license is for an office, and then to give, the rest of it's literally gonna be, my parents store stuff out in St. Charles, and I was like, it doesn't make sense for them to be paying to store stuff, so there's gonna, my mom is gonna be like in her wonderland there going through storage, like that's pretty much what's gonna be.
So, I got a couple of questions.
Sure.
My first question is this even really a business? I understand it's a commercial building. When you mine this crypto, who's the owner?
Of the cryptocurrency?
Yeah.
So, so we get paid in crypto, but what we're mining is, the best way to think of this is in the same way you use like a credit card transaction, this is also just validating the transaction. So we are, essentially the output we're getting paid, but we're also mining another transaction, if that makes sense.
I think the way to look at the computer is,
It
your computer
validates.
at home does everything.
Yeah.
It does everything that you want it to do. This machine is specific to mining crypto, any type, it's not just Bitcoin, it can be anything. So what we do is this goes after the Bitcoin, it mines it, it holds it, and then what we do is we eventually, to turn that into US dollars. We
Yeah.
have, you know, and we have a wallet this goes into, and that's what it does. It constantly
Yeah.
mines.
And in terms of the revenue generated, it becomes ours though, yes.
So, I mean, because I guess my,
It's a business or a hobby.
because, I mean, seriously, because
Right.
I don't, you gotta excuse me, I don't
No, you're
know a
good, of
lick
course.
about cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
No worries.
Okay.
He knows a lot more
Um,
than I do.
But I mean, I don't see, are you paying sales tax on anything? I mean, is there a
IRS,
license
yes.
required with the state of Illinois
No.
to classify? What is classifying this even as a business, let alone a data center?
And I don't even think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't even think, from a taxing standpoint, you're not even getting taxed on it.
Correct.
So there's
So-
nothing, you can't even, because basically what they're doing is the machines, the computers mine, you can set them up to where they mine 24 hours a day.
Correct.
Whatever they mine, how they mine, you get a percentage of that mining and it goes into your wallet or to your pocket. Once you create so much money, once you create so much crypto, it then can be exchanged for US dollars through crypto.
Yes.
Okay, and so so I guess my question is who's crypto making the check out to? Are they making it out to you personally, or is it making it out to your actual business?
So right now, it's me personally, but we would ultimately set it up as an entity later on. Right now, though, it's legal.
And any income that comes into him is obviously reported to the IRS
Yeah.
as income to him.
Well, I mean, like,
Right.
none of that,
Yeah,
I
but we don't
understand
hear-
that, that's.
Yeah,
No, no,
we don't-
I
we
don't
don't-
put
down
that's
there.
not
Like-
right.
But I'm just saying from a sales tax,
No.
you know, I mean, you're in a commercial,
Well,
We're not selling anything.
No,
Because
there's no
my-
goods.
There's
we're
no
not-
transaction between you walking in
No,
and,
there's no goods.
so the village doesn't see, you know, I think what we're saying is the village isn't getting any money from, or, you know, from like the business or a sales tax or anything.
I mean, basically, it's like,
But-
it's a vacant
Other
building
than our
with
property
outlets
taxes.
that your family's gonna be in,
Yeah.
that there's some machines sitting in. It's completely unregulated by the government, it's unregulated by the state, but somehow or another, we wanna make it fireproof.
Exactly.
yes, that's,
my other part is that, like, really even classifying this as a business, because that is what even gives the fire district the right, through our IGA, to be doing these inspections. I mean, are we even really talking about a business here?
Yeah, we.
Versus somebody who, yes, it's a commercial building, but there's other commercial buildings in town that people own that, you know, whatever, if they use it for personal use, they're using it for personal use. It doesn't have to necessarily be for commercial use. You could buy a commercial building, you could lease a commercial spot that's zoned commercial and use it for personal. Right? I mean, we have restrictions through our zoning ordinances and stuff as far as it being residential or not, you know, you being able to be used for residential as living quarters. But there is nothing that says you can't own, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, but I mean.
Is there any reason for the public to go into that building at all?
No. Like, they wouldn't be, it would be, not be rude to them, they would just be trespassing. Like, I don't want them in there, so.
And it's not,
There's no
you have
reason.
no employees except your family.
Yes,
Correct.
Yeah,
correct.
so, that's the thing, it's literally, it's either gonna be me in there because I'm getting something out of storage, or I'm looking at one of these, or it's probably gonna be my mom going through the past 30 years of storage. I have 3 older sisters too, so.
When they first came to the village hall, they come in and asked us, and we said, yeah, you need a business license because you're in a
Right.
commercial district. We really weren't sure exactly how to classify it, because there are some businesses in town that don't pay for sales tax, you know, that are service businesses and things like that. But they did say they would never be open to the public. So it was kind of a do we or don't we.
Uncharted waters.
Yeah, so we did it as a regulation so that we know they're there, what they're using the building for, because it's a commercial building.
There are protocols with obtaining a business license, and all the police departments know who the key holder is,
Yeah.
know what lights are gonna be on at night. If there's forms you fill out for that, and the police like to know that information, security, but.
Well, and if you weren't forthcoming in the meeting about going on about how maybe you're gonna potentially have 40 of these or so, you'd be talking about having 5 or 8 or 10 units in a room, which boggles my mind that we would need a 2-hour firewall for that.
How many computers do we got running in this building?
Believe me, I've had this conversation with the fire district. How many do I have at work? I have 8 laptops. I mean, we had this conversation. I says, how many computers do you need in your business? Suppose you put in a call center in there with 40 people with laptops. You need a firewall around every laptop? You know,
Yeah, well, I agree. First off, I agree wholeheartedly with John on this particular point of whether or not a business would be applicable in this situation. And honestly, from like, you know, a technological standpoint, that's obviously not a data center. You know, a data center would have server racks and, you know, it would be, there's definitely a lot more than what you see there.
Number 60, or you said something about 60?
So when we spoke with Eric, the fire inspector, he mentioned that he believed 60 was the number in his head.
well, that was the number in his head.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's-
For a data center for him?
There's no standard for that, that was the number he came up with.
So essentially, we were challenging him on like how do you define a data center, because I was like, would Waltz technically be a data center because they have specific, you know, all those computers and for the checkout, like technically that you could argue that's a data center. And so that's when he started saying, well, you have to have closer to like 60 machines.
he said, for some reason, I'm sitting next to him, for some reason, the
Yeah.
number 60 was stuck in his head.
Yeah,
That's
which,
exactly what he
I
said.
mean,
Like
personally,
that's his personal preference, or like
That's
it's written
his-
down in statute somewhere?
well, that's,
Yeah,
I asked that question,
That's the
believe me.
question.
And what was the answer?
Not quite sure.
yeah.
It's just the number stuck in his head for 60. And that's for fire suppression equipment, because at that point, he kind of backed away from the fire suppression. But the 2-hour firewall, so then we can get into this paint thing, they were willing to do intumescent paint, I believe it is.
Yeah, so we've talked to them about intumescent paint,
Without having to rip out the electric to try to
Yes,
re-drywall the whole thing, to give it the 2-hour.
yeah, and that, so that applies totally fine to the gypsum or to the gypsum, the walls we have, as well as any plywood we have in there. It provides the 2-hour fire rating they are looking for, but then apparently there's been some pushback as well on that. So we're willing to do that as well. if
I
that-
think that with the coding that we're talking about putting on there, it's very arbitrary. Eric frankly just doesn't like it.
Yeah.
And we said we want to speak with the manufacturer at our meeting on the phone. He said, I don't want to do that, that's not happening. Then I said to Frank, let's call this guy up. For some reason, he has in his head, Chief Joe was like, you know, whatever, and I don't, well, you know, just go a lot, I'm not gonna go into the depth of this, but it's just, I think a lot of the decision-making by Eric, frankly, has just been overreach. And, it's just, you know, you don't wanna kill somebody who comes in here and says, we wanna do business, we wanna get a pop, but, you know, we want to buy in the city. We're employing businesses in here to do work in this town and in this village. And you know, the thing is, it got to the point of being absurd, because what we were told in June, before we bought the building, is you have a 2,000 square foot building, the only thing you gotta really worry about is a fire alarm. And now it's morphed into something that's become sort of absurd. And we're at the position like, is this something we really wanna do here? So I'm not gonna get on all that, but I think a lot of this stuff was very arbitrary without any finding of fact that we looked up and what we were told. We bought in Beecher for that reason. We then find out the rules are changing along the way. So we had this meeting last week. Anyway,
So so you guys had an inspection in June?
I'm sorry?
You guys had a fire inspection in June?
We met with him he was at the property, he didn't go into.
You said you won't need one.
And
at
so,
the time.
yeah, so we mentioned him, we said we're doing cryptocurrency mining, and then that's when he told us, because the building's under 2,000 square feet, all you need is a fire alarm.
And we've been an open book with him about this, and this is before, with everyone. We're nothing to hide. We registered with the village as a business. I mean, you know, we're trying to do everything right, and
Yeah.
it's like, "Dink," every time we
Anybody
turn around.
check with the state fire marshal codes on that? Or talk to the state fire marshal?
Not at this point. Yeah.
I'd say you'd probably get the correct answers from them.
Yeah. But then, you know, we gotta watch too, because when we approved the IGA, it was the 2015 fire code, and even as we sat here that day, he started to go forward and cite things that had to do with 2017 and 2018, as I recall, in our conversation in the meeting, which should have nothing to do with this. The one email I saw where he was citing NFP 75, it was 2020 edition. We didn't approve 2020 here, we approved 2015. So there's a lot of things, even in the IGA, there's some points in there where I know what we meant when I was on the board, when we signed that agreement. I know what we meant. There's some things that said 2015 code as amended. You could argue what does as amended mean, but one of the things I was talking to village administrator about today is perhaps we need to go over that IGA a little bit and clean up some details there, but that's something that would go back to committee, just to kind of,
And I think our big thing too is it seems more what we're doing rather than like the volume we're doing at, that he seems to be applying the server designation to. Like, I think it's, and no disrespect to Eric, but I think he's just hearing crypto and he's thinking it's some crazy operation, when in reality, what we're doing is not, nothing more dangerous than, say, from a heat standpoint, a fire standpoint, than a laundromat is honestly more dangerous. It's putting out a gas heater puts out way more heat than anything we're doing. And obviously in terms of electrical, all that, we're following everything there. It's just, we're not, we don't have raised floors, none of that. We're not, I wouldn't consider us a data center. And that's kind of where we're getting tripped up now, is we bought, understanding this was an office building, only need the fire alarm, and now he's kind of like, whoa, I've changed my mind, you need to do all these things. And, we're using 5% of the building, and he's honestly, I'll just be straight with you guys, he's talking about doing everything he wants is about 120% of what we paid for the building. So we can't be using 5% of the building and then spending more on fire suppression. It just doesn't, from a business standpoint, does not make sense.
And as you know, pardon me, this is a building that has sat empty for 3.5 years. We have, if you look at the outside, we've done everything with our hands, ourselves, cleaned it up, do all the things just to make it look nice for the neighbors, etc. We've gotten to know the neighbors. I mean, it's been fun, it's been great. Sort of the problem is when we're dealing with a moving target, it's really tough for us to manage now and in the future. And it's very frustrating, very frustrating. This gentleman's not an employee of the city, he's an independent contractor, he comes here once a week. Our emails to him sometimes have gone completely unanswered, or we've asked 3 questions, we get one answer back, we get it a week or 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you plan as a business, or for something to function? We're waiting to get permits for something we really don't have to have permits for, frankly, based upon where we're starting. We're trying to do the right thing, and he comes along and just changes everything. And it's just so, as I said, it was great that we met last week, because we were looking at each other saying, well, what the heck is going on here? So anyway, that's a little bit of frustration.
So at this point, he wants a halon system on this room, I'm guessing, something that's
Yeah, so he told us
oxygen suppressant?
Energen system.
Yeah. Okay.
he's kind of eased back on that until they get to 60 units, which is a number, I don't know where that came from, but.
Yeah.
It's a very arbitrary number.
And
Yeah.
just to bounce off the point that trustee DeForest made about where do we classify this as a business, I'm just reiterating, because I have the same feeling, how does this, and I understand for the tracking point, the tracking sense of that, but like, why are we
I know.
stuck on this for 5% of the building,
Well, that's me, I'm looking at a 109 square foot room saying, why does this one room have to come up with a 2-hour firewall for a few computers in it, especially since we have this few to begin with. I asked Bob today, so where do we stand? Our inspector has approved it, but it's approved pending fire district approval. And this is where we get into a little bit of the interpretation part when it comes to the IGA, as far as, do we have to have their approval on
Our
this?
inspector's only concerned with the electrical, because it was an electrical permit application.
Right.
And it was an increase of service, and he said that the existing 100 amp service has to be disconnected.
Correct.
And a new 3-phase service goes on, because you can't have 2 services to one building.
And we've notified comment of that last week after.
And he's only concerned with the electrical part of the permit application. Okay, the problem that came up is the inspector is going to be inspecting, the fire inspector now, a broader spectrum, because it's a new commercial business in town, and now they want to review that use, and they look at the use groups in the NFPA code, not in our zoning ordinance, and they determined that in the NFPA code, they want to classify you as a data center, where from a zoning point of view, we're looking at you as an office use.
And this
That's
is the
the-
impasse
that's the-
we're at, with the
Yeah.
fire district, as far as us giving them, a CO to get in the place.
That's what I was just gonna ask, is what's required for a CO for that?
we've already issued them a business license prior to this, cause that was prior to them upgrading the electrical service. So we had taken them on as a business office use, and we had issued business license.
But once the,
ComEd will not connect to three-phase service until the village inspector says the electrical's approved.
right, and the village inspector will approve the electric, because he already approved the part he's seen, the outside panel, he still has to look at the inside. But then usually at that point, I believe our IGA says, after the fire district approves it, then we issue the certificate of occupancy. Now, we are the regulating authority, technically speaking, we could override something that came up that we disagreed with. It's just a bridge that would be interesting to cross.
But does you really need to have an occupancy permit if he doesn't have, if he's not open to the public?
He would need a CO to,
Yeah.
certificate of occupancy to, but I'm just having a hard time wrapping my head around this. I mean, this could be going on inside any home, inside anybody's
I know.
bedroom in their house
I know.
without them knowing. And at what point, you know, and now, it just frustrates me even more because we've been down this road with this fire district.
Yep.
Okay, I love the fire district, I love the chief, the fire chief, everything else, but this is all too familiar with the issues we've had on other businesses with complaints with this fire inspector. And as far as overreach, and they only have this because of an intergovernmental agreement that we approved. What would it take for us to eliminate that intergovernmental agreement?
30 days notice.
30-day notice in each
We
side.
put it on the agenda for January. I'm requesting formally that it be placed on the agenda for our first meeting in January to strike the intergovernmental agreement with the fire district.
Can you make that motion in this meeting? Can we do that? Or
I mean,
is
it's
it
not
just
a motion,
request?
it's just a request for
Yep,
it
can
to
be
be
put out,
placed
yep.
on the
So we
agenda
can
and
put it
at
on.
that night,
Absolutely.
it'd be an agenda item, it could be discussed and
Yep.
voted on and motions made if necessary.
Yep, yes, you can. We will put it on the agenda for the first meeting in January.
Thank you.
You're welcome. In the meantime,
How do we solve their problem now, so they can, do what
well,
they need to do?
I do have another, at least a telephone meeting with Eric and the chief on Wednesday. So that's the next time Eric is in town. And allegedly, according, I spoke to the chief today, and the chief was, wonderful to speak to today. He says that let's sit down and see if we can come up with this, whatever specific code it is, but it's gotta be in 2015. I'm willing to go out on a pretty big limb that, they didn't have a whole lot in the 2015 fire code about, crypto mining.
I mean, are we still talking about
But the
an
problem
inspector's
is-
opinion? Because that's not what this is for.
It's an
It is.
interpretation.
It's
his-
an interpretation
his
of them saying
interpretation.
it's a data center and
Yes,
still.
it's the word data center that is what's doing all this, or an ITE room. That is what the hang-up is as far as what they're allowing. As far as the inspector, and I know that the fire chief watches these, sorry, Joe, you're not gonna like this conversation, but, as far as what he brought up in the room, even when we were talking about intumescent paint, what was his quote? He says, I don't allow that here, or it isn't allowed here. For the paint, and I turned around and said, where isn't it allowed? And he says, here in Beecher. I said, how do you say it's not allowed here? Well, it's not allowed in Elmhurst. I said, is it allowed anywhere within the state of Illinois? Well, I don't know that. But this is the kind of stuff you run into, where
So
it's
we
like, no,
arbitrarily
I
made
don't.
that rule.
Yeah.
Then, yeah, I'm for putting that on the January. I mean, if that's what we're gonna deal with, then yeah, put it on the agenda for January. If they can't work something out, we'll do it for them.
Okay. In the meantime, I'll be in touch with you guys. We will figure out, I imagine, when would you like to open? I know you still have to be inspected as far as the interior of that building.
Yeah, I mean, what you tell us.
Yeah,
We're here,
Okay.
you wanna come over there now, you're more than welcome.
Well, I actually would like to see it too, just out of
Absolutely.
curiosity.
We're
but-
putting in, flooring is going in, starting tomorrow, flooring. M3 will be doing electric, lighting, putting up, lighting.
Will you guys be there Wednesday morning?
I'm sorry?
Will you be there Wednesday morning?
Oh, yes, yep,
I may stop by
Just-
just way.
sure.
And you made an interesting comment that
You're welcome
you couldn't
anytime.
fit more than 40 of those in that room anyway, is that what you said?
Well, so that's the electrical, like, we literally would not be able to go above 40 with the internals. It's just not possible. So, that's like, that's when he brought up 60, that's why I was like, oh, sure, that sounds great, cause if we're at a point where we have 60
Okay.
machines, I'm probably gonna be getting permits to knock walls down. That would be, like, I would be finding them a new place to put stuff, and we'd be figuring something
Well,
out.
and my issue too with the amount of these is if you're going 10 or less to open, I don't know
Yeah.
that anybody on the planet could refer to that as a data center. And they're gonna do annual fire inspections, so next year, if you've got 30 or 40 of them,
Exactly.
then maybe we have a conversation next year, and this is probably what I will talk to them about on Wednesday. I don't get today where putting a couple of those in a room could be construed by anyone as a data center.
Yeah,
And
we-
that's what you're doing when you open, you're not gonna have much in there.
We don't want to put anybody in danger. We don't want the building to burn down. We wanna do what the right thing is. Eric said 60, fine, if 60's your number, I don't know where he's getting it from, but 60's fine, but at the same time, eventually, if this grows enough, we're gonna want a fire suppression, but right now, even up to 60 this is not like gee whiz stuff. There are businesses in the state of Illinois, and in Beecher for that matter, that operate in far more dangerous situations than we are. Welding around fluids, gasoline, etc. That happens, and we've spoken with a lot of business owners in the village, and they're with us on this. I mean, they understand what we're going through. So it just seems a lot of the things are very arbitrary, very capricious, and it's life isn't fair sometimes. But this is definitely not fair. This is one man's idea of how he thinks this town, this village should operate. And he's not really employed by this, he's just somebody that was brought in to do this, and seriously, I think, with all due respect to him and everyone else, if you want to do the most for this village, I would reconsider his engagement, because I think he's doing a lot of damage, personally, and that's just my experience in speaking with other people in the village.
Yeah, he's not employed by us or contracted by us, that's
Yeah,
directly
it's by
through
the
the
sorry?
fire.
fire. He's
Fire-
not contracted or
fire
employed by the village,
Oh,
that's
okay.
through the fire district.
It's through the
That's
fire
okay.
district, yeah.
a separate tax.
Yeah, this was an intergovernmental agreement between us and the fire district
Okay.
to be able to do the inspections, so.
I'm sure there's other people that do that as well, right? I don't know where he was picked from, but that's
That's
not
the
a
fire
criticism,
district's
it's just
decision.
my dealing with, my working with him. You think you're going in with this, okay, fine, that's something we can live with, we'll buy here. We do that, we look at the stuff online, and then all of a sudden, 2 months later, it's not that anymore, it's something else, and then it's something else, and and all this stuff, if you're business owners in here, you understand, X amount of capital, and something makes sense or doesn't make sense, so.
Well,
I say that respectfully,
I think to lend to it too, a big part of it is you try to find a solution, and it feels like a solution's never good enough. Like the paint is a great example. He couldn't ever give us a technical reason as to why it wasn't good enough. And then they finally came back and were essentially saying, well, when it's applied to steel, it has issue. And I'm like, we're talking about applying it to drywall, not steel. So it just feels very disingenuous, to be honest. The thing is, this is a big investment. I don't want it to catch on fire either. Like and that's what I've said to him. If the room ever goes over 80, I'm gonna be doing something about it. They're just built in a way where they're built with not setting things on fire in mind, as weird as that sounds.
These
But
machines
they
are 8 to 10,000 a piece, plus. So if we have 10 of them, there's roughly 100,000 sitting in the building. If we have 60 of them, there's a lot more money.
Yeah.
So obviously, when we want things to last, things to work, they don't go on forever, but they're not, it's not like a Dell computer or something like that, you can go for $499. They're expensive.
Yeah, so we don't wanna burn the building down either.
Yeah, we got you.
All right, we appreciate you coming down.
We'll have an answer for you soon,
Yep.
Appreciate it.
And we'll be in touch.
yeah,
Thank you very much.
All right, and you don't have to sit through the whole meeting if
Are
you
you
want,
sure?
you guys.
you can watch it on YouTube like you have.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
And anytime any one of you would like to stop by, we'll obviously be there tomorrow, Wednesday, there's some work about it, anytime, a month from now, whenever it is.
Sounds great, thank you.
Thank
you,
guys.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
You too.
All right. Do we have a village clerk report?
Clerk's report, the tax income received in the month of And we did receive $16,816 in a grant for new MDTs for the squad cars, which I believe the chief had applied for previously. And just for the residents, dog tags are now on sale for $10 each. They can be purchased here at the village hall or online for our e-pay system, and the deadline is March 15th of next year. That's it.
Alrighty. Commission reports, beautification commission,
Nothing to report.
alright. Fourth of July commission, trustee Kraus.
I'll turn the first part over to trustee Giannotti, and I'll continue.
Yo, you wanna cover the fireworks?
Yeah.
Is that the first part? I wanna-
Fireworks. Oh, you wanna do the
Yeah,
effort?
do that stuff now, do the.
Oh. Oh, fireworks was on the tag.
Oh, this on somewhere?
Underneath your report, fireworks. No, I made a copy of this for everyone. There's the plan for the, improvements that we're gonna make down in the park this year. There's a whole list out here, just to highlight everything. Getting some barricades so that we're not relying on the village for that stuff. We're gonna replace the refrigerator that is currently in the kitchen and upgrade it with 2 new refrigerators. And then also, we're gonna look into the freezer as well. Get some new cabinets into the kitchen as well. Replace the 2 electric flat tops with a full stove. So we have a stove in the kitchen, making that more usable. Purchasing the tables and chairs, so that we have all our own bingo tables and chairs, and we can get rid of the wooden chairs that we're currently using that are starting to fall apart. Just replacing the beer garden entry signs, the 2 light poles that will complete lighting the picnic grove have been ordered and are in. So once the weather breaks, those will be installed as well. So all the lighting in the picnic grove will be completed. Beer chips, gonna get a new style of beer chip. Putting some TV lifts into the bingo stands so that TVs don't have to be removed and they be weatherproof by that. Normal picnic table repair for the year. Planning on replacing boards on 10 of the picnic tables to continue getting those to being pressure treated lumber instead of the painted lumber. New raffle drum for the car raffle, so we don't have to rent the one from Creed anymore. And then putting a screen door on the back of the food stand. Currently there's a big wooden screen. We're gonna get one of those actual screen doors so that during events down in the park, that screen door can be rolled down instead of the big roll down door having to go up and down. And then also, the commission has committed to paying whatever the difference is on the HVAC equipment. So with that grant that we applied for from Will County, whenever it comes through, the commission will cover whatever the offsetting amount is outside of that amount. So somewhere right around 37,000 in improvements planned for this year, and plus whatever other stuff comes up.
And I think 4th of July agreed to put 80,000 away to cover the entire festival, and then another 25,000 for major improvements should they occur unexpectedly. Is that correct, Joe? Is that
Yes,
what they-
and, well, yeah, we're gonna start planning a savings for every year towards large capital improvements, roofs, paving sections of the park that are unpaved, so trying to get like a large capital improvement plan in place so that we have a goal, we're saving for that goal while still completing some of the smaller tasks along the way.
But they can do the 80 and the 25, and still have enough.
And still have enough to do a whole slew of projects like this, so that's what the ultimate goal is at this point. Because we're getting to the point where there is large capital projects that need to be completed, but some of this stuff is with the park, the opinion of the commission was with the park getting used more by not only us, the village, and some of the other local community groups and stuff like that, giving these improvements will help for everyone to be able to use the food stand a little bit better, along with helping the commission to have a little bit easier way putting the 4th together. So that's why we moving forward with this in the direction we're going, so. That's it for that.
And then, consider a motion approving a 3-year contract for fireworks, with pyrotechnics. Next 2 years will be 35,000 in 2023 and 2024, 38,000 in 2025. Show will be larger and contain higher bursting shells over the tree line. There's actually a nice visual one somewhere in the packet, how high they go. And that the Fourth July Commission unanimously recommended approval of the contract. Do you have something about it?
Yeah, the contract involves a minimum of a 2-inch shell, which will clear the trees, and the addition of 8-inch shells, which we have not had in the show for several years. When an 8-inch shell goes off, you'll know it went off. It's big. So they wanted to do a bigger show and continue with the same time frame that we're working with, not a 15-minute, but a 28-minute. And it costs some money. And there was discussion, well, you know, if it disbands in a year or two, who's gonna cover the 3-year deal? There's enough money set aside in escrow that if they were to disband, the village could pay for the last 2 shows with that money, so it's there. So it's not like we're stringing you know. I don't think it's gonna disband, but in the event it ever did, there's still money there to pay for that contract. There's a lot of advantages to locking it in a multi-year deal. You get those shells guaranteed, you get a guaranteed price now. Because things are going up.
It's common
Fast.
past practice.
And it's common past practice,
So
right?
it's been done for multi-years.
So I'll make a motion to approve the 2-year contract for fireworks display with pyrotechnics.
Second motion.
There's a motion and a second, discussion, roll call.
Kraus,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Gianni,
Yes.
Musician,
Yes.
Caprows.
Yes.
And that's all I have.
Okay, youth commission trustee session.
Thank you very much. Just 2 things. BYC provided candy donations and volunteer labor to help staff the Lions Breakfast for Santa this year. Which went off very well. Next meeting is December 20th at 7:30 PM here at the Village Hall, where they're going to be discussing the upcoming dances for the new year. That's all.
All right, historic preservation commission, trustee Kaporis.
I'm gonna defer to clerk.
The historic preservation meeting for the month of December has been canceled due to the holiday. The next meeting will be the 3rd Wednesday of January at 6 PM at the T-Bone.
Thank you. Sorry to throw you on the spot like that. You're on the hot seat.
All right, that's
Yep,
it.
yep.
All right, under my report, we met with the county East Will mayors to discuss east-west truck traffic movements throughout the county. There's a map in your packet. There had been some talk before, and I'm kind of a newbie with this committee. You know, Bob's been sitting in on these meetings for ages. We sat in on this meeting, and the only thing I was thinking about at the time about this east-west truck route is I was not under the impression that any final route had been approved, and
I don't think anybody was.
well, and that, I shut up, cause it's like, ooh, what do I know? And then, Mike Einhorn came up and then says, wait, when did this happen? So, you know, I'll defer to you
Yeah,
as to.
they had a
when-
corridor picked from Pauling Road up to Exchange Street. They were looking for a corridor to put a road through. And somewhere along the line, they decided, they being the county, to pick Creek Monee Road. And that caused some angst with the Village of Monee, who says, okay, you're gonna end the road at Route 50 and you're gonna go take all these trucks down Court Street? That doesn't make sense, because we did talk about a southerly bypass. Because Creek Monee Road probably makes more sense than Pauling, because it's flat, there's no culverts that you'd have to improve. It makes sense, yeah, it makes sense from that point of view. But they dead-ended Monee, and that's not gonna work, so they have to put in a bypass to Route 50 south of Monee. And we talked about that, but that didn't show up on the plan, and that caused some concern.
Yeah, the plan
So-
looked like it was still going right through
Right
Monee.
through,
Yeah, which is what, you know, some of the mayors in the room said.
Plus,
How
there
did
was
this
no
happen?
extension to 394,
Yep,
which we had talked about at length in previous meetings.
yep.
So that's gonna be added, and they're trying to get an environmental study started on that corridor. But again, we're talking about a 15 to 20 year process. Look at Penfield Street, that's an existing road.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a while.
They did have more information, and I don't know if that's in here or not, for when they were gonna start. Is that like 2 years from now at, on 394 and,
They're gonna try to
Warren
straighten,
Exchange?
they're gonna try to straighten Exchange Street out. If you know it, I wanna say it's Burville, but it might be Bemis. I can't remember which road it is. There's a
Burble?
nasty curve, and they're gonna try to straighten that curve out Also, they're experimenting with a Michigan design for a interchange at Burville and 394, where there's been a lot of accidents. And it's a complicated intersection, but you actually have to go north a half mile or quarter mile to turn and go back south if you want to go south. So they have these people doing these big loops to avoid
Having
T
to cross.
conflicts, yeah, with traffic, but Creek didn't seem to be too sold on that design, so.
No, and I think that one was something like 2 years down, and then there was 1 year for the exchange thing. These were coming a little quicker than
The
all
one
the
at,
rest
the
of
one
it.
at Burville and 394 is real close to being started.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, that's the update such as it is. As a reminder, there will be no meeting on December 26th, so the next regular village board meeting will be held on Monday, January 9th. I have received some notices of resignation from the commissions. There's one official resignation from Heba Arroyo from Beecher Youth Commission, and 3 from 4th of July Commission. Nelson Collins, Barb Hodgett, well actually, it says 3, there's 4, Margie Cook and Debbie Falchetti. All of these were expected, and they were some great volunteers, but we're gonna need some more to fill those spots. We're gonna have spots open. Margie Cook took over bingo, and Barb Hodgett and Nelson were always in the treasurer's booth, so they're gonna need some help in the treasurer's booth, so. We are accepting applications if anyone is interested in becoming a 4th of July commissioner.
Outstanding, I recommend it to everyone.
And then, the last two, I never did this after, last year, actually, at the beginning of this year, I never finished doing the appointments. But since we also revised the way we did the police commission, and it's technically new, I would like to have someone make a motion to approve Todd Kraus and Tom Johnson, who are already, on our police commission, but to be the representatives, and the term would run until the next election, April 30th. So if somebody would make that motion.
So moved.
There's a motion on the floor, is there a second?
A second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second, roll call.
Caprows,
Yes.
Possession,
Yes.
Giannetti,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Kraus.
I can vote for myself, right? Yes.
With that being done now, we need to hire some part-timers, correct? So we need to start a process. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty, finance and administration, trustee DeForest.
Consider a motion approving the treasurer's report. Donna?
The November month end for the village accounts, $4,355,708.78. The November month end for the commission accounts, $341,064.89. The two combined, $4,776,773.67. The November month end in general, $1,342,011.05. And the November commission and non-AP payments for the month of November totaled $537,324.88. A little higher, but the pre-approved by the board, the EPA loan payment, the purchase of the tractor from DeYoung, and the purchase of a squad car. Other than that, just your typical stuff. If anyone doesn't have any questions, that ends my report.
All right, I will go ahead and make a motion approving the treasurer's report for the month prior.
There's a motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second?
There's a motion and a second, discussion, roll call.
Kraus,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yeah.
Terry,
Yes.
Giannetti,
Yes.
Possession,
Yes.
Caprows.
Yes. Variance reports are enclosed for your review. Consider a motion approving the bills for the month prior. Got some changes and additions. Becker's Automotive is $640.08 rather than the $333.52. There's an addition for a ComEd bill that came in for $9,139.84. Crete Ace for $99. Jones Parts and Service, $45.54.13. Lindco Salt Spreader Parts, $581.64. There's a change to RP Lumber, that was a typo, the bill was $56.42. Suburban Labs, $11.22.38. Superior Pumping, $51.15.32. And that's it for changes or corrections. So I'll go ahead and make a motion approving bills for the month prior in the amount of $509,650.43.
There's a motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second?
There's a motion and a second, discussion?
I'll just bring up, there's just a lot of major bills in there, insurance, workers' comp,
Pavement, the road
Pavement,
project for
pavement
22,
project,
bonds,
bond payment was in there, so.
Sidewalk curb.
sidewalk curb work,
Yeah,
and that's all planned, it's all projected, but we probably won't hold on to $1 million fund balance in general if we pay these bills.
yeah,
We did pretty good.
yeah.
Alrighty.
Was there a couple, I'm trying to find a credit card, I thought I saw a couple credit card bills. They were small, but there was tax on them.
Yeah, the finance chair brought that up to me,
There was a couple
we
big-
went through the
It
bills
was
and they were
Microsoft.
internet transactions that Jeanette made, and I don't really understand how we would pay tax unless it was that uniform use tax that's nationwide now.
It's gotta be the use tax, those are paying for our email accounts.
They're automatic, they hit once a year.
I can check with my, IT company and see if they can remove those, I didn't catch that, and see.
Yeah, cause there was, I think, two that didn't have them and two that did.
Two that did, it totaled $7.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, there's four, two had, or, well, whatever, a couple did, a couple didn't. So.
Those were Microsoft ones?
Correct. Yeah, I brought it up to that.
And I didn't have a chance to talk to you yet. It was at 6 o'clock.
Sorry to throw that at you.
I will check that.
Thank you.
Alright, roll call.
Capros?
Yes.
Possession?
Yes.
Gianni?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes. 5-year financial plan, first draft is complete and will be presented to the committee for review and amendment before going to the full board on January 9th. Bond sale update, First Mid-State is presenting our bond offering at to approximately 300 potential bond purchasers in hopes that a private placement can be recommended to the village board. If a competitive price placement does not present itself, we will then proceed with a public offering through a clearinghouse where portions of the bonds are sold in increments. The cost of issuance is more expensive going this route, but if a competitive private placement is not offered, that's what we'll do. The good news is that our financials are strong and the bond market is actually loosening somewhat, and rates have been decreasing as the Fed reduces its reliance on interest rate increases to control the economy. We should be able to get a rate below the 5.9, which was what was written in the referendum. So we'll most likely be selling bonds at the January 9th meeting by adopting an ordinance accepting the private placement recommendation. Bond counsel will be present to walk us through the process of adopting the necessary ordinances to make this happen. By the end of January, the funds will be placed in escrow and ready for use on the project. So, and then just a little note on that, I know I'll be on vacation, but Bob is gonna be in contact with me, I'll have my phone available. We're expecting right after the new year, on January 2nd, Tuesday, hopefully to be hearing something from bond counsel.
It's actually the third.
The third, yes.
One other note, the two local banks will be offered in this private placement. The chances that they'll jump at it are probably slim, they will be offered the bonds. And the reason for that is a 20-year bond is difficult for smaller institutions to handle. They usually only want to go out 10 years, they don't want to go out 20. So a 20-year private placement will probably be with a much larger financial institution. But I just want you to know that the local banks will be offered.
Any other questions on that? All right, that concludes my report.
All right, Public Buildings and Properties, Parks and Recreation Committee, trustee Giannotti.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Public safety building, public safety facility update. We will be conducting a coordination meeting between the architect and the engineer before the first of the year. Unfortunately, we cannot get any survey work done until after January 1st, now due to the lack of available crews. We will also be holding another floor plan layout meeting with the chief before taking the final plan design to the village board.
We do have a date now, we're gonna meet on the 21st of December at 2 p.m. Coordination meeting first, floor plan design will come next. So,
Those signs out there say future home run, right?
Yeah, they do now say future.
Whoever did that, thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, Matt.
Project Pickle has been coined, update.
Thank you for putting that down.
John or Todd
I was told,
from our,
That's why I
from our
said
ad
it's
hoc
to,
committee, would you like to update us?
So basically, we had there today, they had a facility meeting at 6:15. The entire board was there, that would be the board meeting. We got a yes. I mean, they seemed excited, they really liked it.
Project Pickle is a go.
Thumbs up to Project Pickle. So, if you could reach out to superintendent, and start whatever IGA legal stuff you guys need to get going. And I'll talk to
Did
Joel.
you guys discuss a term or anything of the IGA? No, we just, you know, they had asked about it, there was a school board member that had asked about the insurance, and I explained, I figured you had talked about, that there's already, you know, an exchange of policies, yeah. And so that didn't seem to be a concern, they didn't have any other ideas, they were very thankful, that the village is willing to do it, they think it's gonna be a great asset to the community as a whole. So they're all for it, and, basically they just said, like Superintendent Gaham said that, you know, and I think I said it to the board is, you know, as long as we know you guys are good and we're good, we'll go ahead and we'll let, you know, the superintendents and the attorneys get together and figure it out. There was a question, the other board member asked about, you know, the maintenance, if there's like a term to it or anything, and
Yeah.
we kinda said like we discussed, you know, that we're gonna take care of it as, you know, any of our other parks.
What might be a better idea first is talk to one of these people who put this stuff down, so we know exactly the length it's supposed to last, you know, the term of the life of the flooring, and we will probably base our IGA on some of those facts, cause I need some of that evidence before we can put that agreement together. The one question I would have is, who owns?
What is that, cause I
mean,
thought the
like, are you
board
asking,
was.
like, if they're gonna insure the
No,
court
let's
for
say
10 years, we'll do 10 years?
Yeah, if they say the court should last 15 years, and a 15-year IGA is probably a good thing to do, you know? And then after it expires, we can decide what to do, because at some point, there's gonna be some maintenance that's gonna have to be done out there after we make the improvements, and the IGA should address that somehow.
I mean, and I'll come to the school's defense here, I mean,
Right.
why would they
Wouldn't
sign
it
that?
just-
Because then
why-
if it just gets dilapidated for 15 years, they're right back to where they.
Yeah,
Then we
I mean,
hand it
I-
over to them,
I
that's not
thought-
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought when we sat here, we discussed that
That we're
you
gonna,
know,
we're
we're
gonna build
absolutely,
a
that, yeah,
we'll build a maintenance budget, okay.
yeah, that we're,
Yeah.
Who's in, do we insure the property, let's say a tornado goes through and rips out the,
I would think
stuff,
that would
is
be
that
covered
ours?
under, that's already theirs, right? Like, what's the,
I mean, if the school messes something up in the park, when they're using it, we fix it, I mean, isn't that already with the other agreements we have? Like, if,
Okay.
great, that's what
I'm
asking.
asking, how do you guys see it? I don't
well, you know, like, as far as that goes, that's up to you guys and the attorneys. You guys figure that out. I mean,
Okay.
that's staff, that's beyond what we are. But I do think that the entire board was under the understanding that
That the village
we're
would
gonna
maintain.
do that the
Yeah.
village was gonna perpetually
In
maintain this,
perpetuity.
just like any of our other
Okay.
facilities or parks. As far as that goes, you know, natural disaster coverage, you know, individual, let that stuff be between the insurance and staff and attorneys. But as far as the maintenance side, I don't see that being an issue.
Yeah, I was under the impression that was gonna be us.
But yeah, I mean, they're very receptive, they're very excited, very appreciative, and I got a yes and I left.
And the school has pickleball in its curriculum.
Yes.
It is taught in
John-
gym class, which
really?
we did not even know.
John and I, dude, I was just about to get the same.
Now you're gonna,
Yeah, play it.
Again,
Just play it back.
They have to be doing it indoors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
not at the tennis courts, we know that, so, but no, it's, I think they're very excited, and it's nice to see that they were, happy that, we're gonna help out, and happy that eventually be, it's an asset for the community and the schools, so.
And just because I forgot to mention it, and I don't know if we've talked about Project Pickle publicly, this is addressing the tennis courts at the high school for the general public. Because I forgot to mention that. So this is the improvement to the tennis courts at the high school. In case anyone doesn't know what Project Pickle is.
Well, now,
They do now.
can someone like pound sign that, or would we get a hashtag or something?
Hashtag Project Pickle.
Sorry, I'm not.
No, that's funny. Anything else? Alright. Park improvement plan update. So we held our committee meeting after the regular board meeting on November 28th. And we set forward with a very specific plan, some updates to that. So me and the superintendent walked Fireman's Park, laid out the light poles, 20 light poles. I'm waiting to hear back on the quote for those poles. We have a few different, there's a couple different styles that we're gonna be getting just based on the different areas of the park that we're gonna be covering with the light. We also took a trip out to Weldon Stet, and in being out there, me and the superintendent were talking, and something we hadn't thought about was the backstop on Fireman's 1 is in pretty rough shape, and we're talking about removing 2 of the backstops at Weldon Stet, so we'll let Superintendent Connor kind of.
So I found a company out of Tinley Park or Frankfurt, do all fence. They do a lot of work for municipalities, and they will remove existing structures and move them to new park locations. So I'm meeting with them tomorrow morning at 9:30. I'm also meeting them, I'm gonna take them over to Project Pickle. They do the netting also for, they gave me a reference for a Project Pickle court.
Surface.
Yeah, the people that do like the colored surfacing and whatnot, so I have that information in my phone. I'll be calling them this week as well, so we're moving in the right direction on everything, just gotta get time and weather.
Yep. And then we're also trying to set up a meeting for the playground equipment as well.
Yeah, the 27th, he said wouldn't work, and we could meet and get him on the phone.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, that'd be fun, so, and you can send him the modified specs for the benches.
Yeah, I'm gonna send them all that info.
So
Yeah,
we have a
we're
couple prices.
just trying to get a few different prices. We already have 2 from 2 online vendors, but the vendor we use for the park equipment also has pricing on that, so that way we'll have 3 prices for that. And so hopefully for January, we'll have some stuff on the agenda that we approved for purchase, so we can start getting some of this stuff in stock. And then our final item here, the HVAC grant for the food stand update. We heard anything?
Nope.
Crickets. So,
It's
keeping our
just-
fingers crossed. Yeah, the last update I got from the contractors I had contacted, the 30-day pricing, it's kind of what everyone's on, so I'm sure, once we get the grant, we'll probably have to get repriced, but, I'm confident that with the money that we get from the grant, plus the money that the 4th of July Commission has, put aside, we should be able to cover this project and get it completed, so, even outside the grant. But yeah, and that concludes my report.
Planning, building, and zoning, trustee Stacy.
Thank you, Mayor. The building department's monthly report is enclosed for your review. That's my report. You can get it in. Thanks.
Public safety, trustee Terry.
Thank you, Mayor. The police department's monthly report is closed in our banks as well. Chief, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yes, our new spriker came in, and today we put the graphics on, and we're looking to get all of our equipment installed in it within a week or 2. We've ordered all the equipment, we've had it for a month. That car will replace our old car 32, which is our last sedan, which is basically a Ford Taurus, and that car will go over to Bob. Even though the car has 126,000 miles on it, it actually runs really good and looks good too, so we're giving you a pretty decent car, Bob. The the new, ordinance we created for, parking during, snows. And, just wanted to advise everyone that we're gonna give warnings the first day, but after that, we would be issuing tickets after the second snow. So, we'll be, utilizing our code enforcement officer as well to help with the warning. Bob, anything with
So
Howard?
I got a question for you, chief. What if somebody wasn't here and didn't park in the street the first time you did warnings? Is there a way to track who received warnings and then they receive a ticket versus?
It'd be very difficult.
So there could be somebody that receives a ticket without a warning?
Yeah, I think that would be very difficult to track, and I think it, you know, I mean,
I don't know, your code enforcement's pretty good at tracking stuff.
I'll do what you wish, but the bottom line is I think we have to set a date when we're gonna start enforcing. If you wanna give 2 days of warnings, I'm fine with that too.
Well, I think once somebody receives a warning, if they do it again.
You could probably log the license plates for the warning, and for the warnings, once you give them a warning, write the plate down, and if you see that same plate parked on the street, you can give them a ticket. It's just that the code enforcement officer is gonna have to track those plates, that's all.
So,
I think our code
And
enforcement officer can handle that.
Well, I don't even know if do we want the code enforcement officer writing the parking ticket?
I wouldn't.
I don't.
No, he's giving the warning.
No, the warning.
Oh, he's just doing the warnings?
Mhm.
Okay, then he could provide a list of those license plates he's issued warnings to the rest of the officers on the day shift if they're gonna want to take.
Well,
And you're gonna know who the offenders are,
I have
aren't you?
I think if you put it in the piece, I'm not 100%, but I think that, like, if we go to, the system that we use for the Will Kind of P system, so like if we go to an address, they'll tell us what the previous is. We'll have to check with the dispatch communication center to see if we can give them the license plate, if they could tell us about, I don't know.
So, it's a simple spreadsheet. You just enter in the plates that you have, you hit the button to alphabetize it, and then the next time you go out, if you're gonna either write a ticket or a warning, you just check your spreadsheet, and it's alphabetical order. If the plate's on there, you call in an officer to give them a ticket, if not, you issue them a warning. Add it into your spreadsheet, hit the button, it'll alphabetize it right back into where it was, where it belongs.
Simple like so.
Not, I just would hate to see somebody that wasn't here in town or something, and they get a snowfall, nobody knows about that. We just changed the ordinance. I mean, it's not like we're enforcing something that's been on the books for 20 years, but this is the first year after you change it. And if you're gonna just go out and start jamming residents with tickets, when, based on the change of an ordinance, I don't know, whatever. I won't be here to hear the complaints.
I have to agree, because you are going to have violations out there.
Absolutely, with the change,
Yeah.
100%.
You are definitely gonna have a learning curve.
We'll talk.
We will have the code enforcement officer, the chief and I will work with the code enforcement officer to.
We're talking 50 warnings, we're talking 10?
He's quite organized, I think he can.
I mean, and can someone get a warning in February if they haven't violated it the couple months, or didn't get caught? I mean, I understand what you're saying, this is brand new, but let's, pick a date or give them 2 or 3 snowballs.
New people move
Yeah,
in.
I'd rather do that. I'd rather like pick a date. and
Because
say
what if
this-
someone, what if there's a snow in April, and no, they're not on that warning list, someone's got, I mean,
Whatever, I'll support the department on whatever they decide. They think it's fair, because I'm not gonna be the one here.
If people get warnings, they're gonna stop. And a lot
That's
of
fine,
people are gonna find
do it
out.
one time and let it rip. Take it.
We'll be,
Thanks for the PD, thanks for the new PD. Good way to thank the residents.
I'm going to guarantee you there's a learning curve on this one.
Yeah,
It
there
really
is.
does bother me if you wanna be community policing to bang people for this right on the get-go. I think one season's good.
we'll be very good about it. If somebody came into the station
Trust you.
and said,
I trust you.
I had
It
no
said-
clue.
I didn't know about this, we would
Yeah.
void the ticket,
Trust you.
Anything else, chief?
not now.
about it?
Well, I figured you'd
Go ahead,
do
put
that
on,
on
put on
yours.
your list, put on your list.
No, the chief's done it.
What,
The
flock cameras, are they on Route 1, are they hot yet?
Yeah, they're being installed, in the next week, I believe.
Okay, they're not hot
They're
yet.
not-
And then that's the good news. The bad news is, we have to start paying
Start
now.
paying for it.
Yeah, but the good news
It's
is,
been a good ride.
they might pay for themselves, you know?
Yeah. No, they're very worth it, very well worth it.
Thanks, chief. And then EMA monthly reports enclosed for your review, and Director Hein, if you wanna speak about holiday with heroes.
Sure. We notified the school, we got, roughly 12 families from the school district. Out of the 12, we got 8 families to respond. We made phone calls, we sent emails. I think some people just didn't wanna be in the program. So out of 8 families, we have 21 kids. We've had the fundraiser at Dunkin' Donuts, we made a little over $1,700. Families, all the names have been put out with the money, and everybody's out shopping. This Saturday, we'll be at the firehouse from 11 to 1 if anybody wants to stop in. We also got stockings from Juan Hernandez from his business to give. We're gonna have cookies and milk, which is donated by Waltz. And we will have plenty of unwrapped gifts under the trees that they will be able to also go under the tree and pick gifts. As of now, we don't have a Santa, but George said he might do it if we give him a Santa suit, so I'll work on that. Hopefully we can have one, but if not, we'll move on with it. But I think we still have money coming in from businesses. We mailed out 26 letters to people that donated last year. We still have donations coming in, so some of them will go into next year's program. But I think right now, everything is running smooth and we'll be ready for Saturday.
I got a question for you.
Yes.
I'm doing some shopping for
Okay.
some of them. Is there a way I can get you the presents or something if I contact Jess?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wanna respect
Yeah,
the
just let me know.
anonymity of the families, and I don't think I need to be there, just,
Okay.
I'll get it to you guys like you guys can.
Yeah, you can do that, or you can drop it at the police
I
station
was
and
gonna say,
we'll haul
haven't
it
they
over.
even, because they used to collect them at the police station too, I think
Yeah.
last year I dropped it.
I can pick it up Wednesday.
Okay,
Yeah, no, just take it over there in the morning.
as soon as I know from the wife it's all clear and complete, I'll let you know, and then whatever, we'll touch base and get it to you guys.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's it.
Alright, thanks, Director Hein. The code enforcement monthly report also enclosed in your packets. And then, Santa's going to be riding the streets of town on Christmas Eve in a fire engine. Just to let everybody knows, it's gonna be the second year, where this is being planned by the fire department. I don't have the specifics that, Chief talked to you about that yet. No? As it comes, I'll try and update everybody through email. And then, after the meeting, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss the resignation of a part-time officer. And that concludes my report.
Public Works Committee, trustee Kraus.
Public Works, Water Department, and Sewer Department monthly reports are enclosed. Consider payment in the amount of $201,965.88 to Grant Excavating as partial payment on the lead service line replacement program contingent on receipts of IEPA funds. This is not the final payment since 2.5% of the project has to be retained pending IEPA audit. After that is complete, we will recommend a final payment, see enclosed material. So make a motion for payment in the amount of $201,965.88 to Grant Excavating as partial payment on the lead service line replacement program contingent on receipt of IEPA funds.
There's a motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second, discussion, roll call.
Kraus,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Funati,
Yes.
Possession.
Yes.
Village ends.
Chopped liver?
You didn't call.
Caprows could be voted.
Sorry, I'm distracted.
He made the motion, he doesn't get to vote.
I guess. Fading away like a ghost of Christmas past.
Just keep moving your chair for.
I always felt like it
towards
was,
the door.
an amicable separation. This term, now I'm starting to feel like a shoved out the door. Now the truth comes out. Are we good? Historic preservation, I guess. Okay. Village ends 2022 leaf program and received a donation of a used leaf machine from the village of Thornton. Thank you, Thornton. Thornton's gotten out of the leaf collecting business and has donated the machine to us. Machine works, but is a tier 2 diesel. The tube and self-contained box will act as our backup machine. We can pull this machine with a mini dump. The third machine we have, a 1994 ODB, uses a chute, which means all material must be raked in the chute. The tube machine requires less labor. Anything on that, Matt?
Just a clarification, the machine needs work.
No.
It is not currently running, so that was one reason why they donated it to us. They didn't want to do the repair to it, so their village board opted, instead of repairing it, to get out of leaf business, so.
A little less, thank you, but still thank you.
Yeah.
It will be a project of passion.
Yeah, we're actually looking forward to it, tearing it apart and rebuilding it and whatnot, so we think we know what's wrong with it already, and it'll be somewhat expensive, it'll be a few $1,000s, but I think it'll be worth it in the end.
Penfield SDP update, the Will County Governmental League Transportation Committee approved an additional $570,542 in federal funds for the Penfield Street project, which reduced our local match from $1,757,622 to $1,187,187.80. This is great news and will reduce our need to borrow funds from our local match down the road. The funding came from a Will County project, which is not ready to go in 2022 and was pushed back to next year. There was some concern that someone else would grab this funding, but Beecher prevailed in the end, so thank you to that too. See enclosed letter. Bob, you have anything else on that?
No, I'm just glad we got it.
That's huge, man.
It's huge.
Over $500,000.
It pays to go to the meetings and know people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for getting that.
Good work by all involved.
And that's all I have.
Okay. Economic Development Community Relations Committee, trustee session.
Thank you very much. Committee chair attends Will County Center for Economic Development Annual Meeting. Here is the report. So first off, you all have a 2022 annual report booklet that you can peruse at your leisure with a list of projects and other cool information on the county that they provided. But first, really what I want to say is kind of in line with what was just said, a little appreciation to Bob, who also attended this. This was an early morning drive under less than ideal driving conditions, and that was after having been in Joliet the night before already for a different event with the Will County Governmental League, which just gave us that $570,000. So, thank you, Bob.
It's all right. And we had free breakfast out of
And
it.
breakfast.
Well, it wasn't the village
Yeah.
didn't pay for it.
Anyway, they had various presentations, highlighting projects such as I-80 reconstruction, Lion Electric, and others. And then Doug Pryor shared his general interesting information on Will County stats. Couple of interesting ones I thought. Number of employers in Will County is up 4.3% from last year at over 16,000, which I thought was pretty cool. Best year for building permits since 2008. Workforce participation is down, which I think people would kind of expect anecdotally, because everyone says how hard it is to hire. But the surprise they gave there was that actually the younger age groups are more represented in the workforce than traditionally. And it's actually the 55+ group, which is currently dropped down lower than what they would usually be in the workforce at. And IDOT, their 2023-2028 plan included $1.92 billion for Will County transportation projects, which I thought was pretty cool. So, that's all.
You are a sustaining investor in this group at $2,000 a year. We upped it, we doubled our investment. But by looking at the people in that room, it's pretty impressive. They put together a huge array of real estate developers and bankers and
it's amazing. Now, a lot of this is not happening in our end of the county, don't get me wrong, but someday it will.
Thank you, Bob. That was my report.
Okay, any old business to come before the board?
I just have one quick thing. A little while ago, I asked about, checking in to see if we, maybe rearrange or extend our village hall hours. Did anything ever come of that? Okay, do it.
And what did you wanna add and
I was just
why?
looking to see maybe a weekend, a
I think
Saturday,
it was
every.
referred to committee, wasn't it?
Yeah, we really haven't met. So, but we will be meeting on our 5-year, we put it on the agenda to discuss it, get the opinion of office manager and stuff. I'll have something for you on the 9th.
Okay.
Had you been approached about that, or is there, just out of curiosity, by residents, or?
That was a while ago, I'm lucky, I remember
Okay.
that I said it at a meeting.
I
I
completely
didn't mind saying it.
understand.
I have my,
My biggest concern would be with that is staff working alone in the village hall.
yeah, and
That's my biggest
whatever,
concern
you
these
know.
days, is having anybody working alone, especially after what's been happening in the past recently, yeah.
And I think we gotta, so I think number one is, and I'll have it ready at the meeting, is we need to go through the CBA and see as far as what that says, as far as overtime and stuff like that, extending hours, weekends, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
there might be set hours in the CBA,
I mean,
which means that,
if it's a no-go, I just haven't heard anything, so.
Yeah, yeah, we'll do a little more digging
Yeah.
on it. I'll have an
But
answer for you.
it would be nice, if there is a clientele out there that we are unable to serve, that would be a concern of mine. And we'd have to find out how we can serve that segment of the clientele. But I've not heard from anybody coming here saying, I wish you had Saturday hours. I've not heard that.
Yeah, we currently can do anything online, so.
Yeah, I mean, there was a day when we used to sell vehicle stickers and dog tags. We had a designated Saturday we'd be open just for that purpose. There was a concern with yard waste stickers. The Homewood Disposal wanted us to be the exclusive seller of the stickers, and we said no, because we're not open on the weekends. And the hardware store and the grocery store should have stickers available for the weekend warriors that wanna clean up their yards on the weekends and we're not open. So they would have to have access to the yard waste stickers, but I don't know of anything else that someone would have to have on a weekend that we're not open to provide for them. That's what I'd have to look at,
Okay.
you know.
Never heard anything back, Jackson?
And a quick thing too, back to the historic preservation meeting, because you caught me off guard. I wanted to thank Public Works for replacing the steps at the caboose down there by the depot. At our last meeting, it was discussed that they were rotting out and would be dangerous by next spring, and they already have been replaced, so I want to thank them for that.
Yep, no problem.
I'd like to thank Public Works too for getting them, slow children playing signs up very quickly. With the spinning thing on top really draws attention to the sign. They also added another speed limit sign, so I think the citizen that brought it to our attention, I think they're gonna be very happy.
Okay, good.
I
Good
have,
job.
thank you. I have one thing to add from last meeting that was discussed under the fire hydrant repairs. I know Trustee Thierry brought up the one specifically on Hunter's Drive. We began doing that repair either on Wednesday or Thursday, and we hit a unmarked ComEd line. And we're still deliberating back and forth with them. ComEd's claiming that they don't own those streetlights up there, which is, yeah, exactly.
All right, at least
I think we've got it handled as of this afternoon, so, but we do have repair parts on order for that. They probably won't be in until next week, but we have to have the power cut, because there is still a live side of the wires that are, ComEd came up.
Lights that are out, correct?
Exactly, yep, I was gonna say, it's gonna be dark up there for a little bit, but and that's the reason why, so. Till we get our end fixed, then ComEd will come back in and get their end fixed. We do have steel plates over the hole, so, to mitigate the hazard, but that's why the barricades are. I will. I talked to somebody.
Themed problem.
Yeah, the ComEd claims that we are one of the only municipalities, in their territory that has decorative street lighting poles. And,
That is correct.
yeah, but, today I finally said, these are your pole numbers. We don't have pole numbers. Oh, I guess they are. They're yellow on black. So I think we finally got through to them that they're not actually ours. So, we think that that's why that the line wasn't marked, because ComEd, claims that they're not theirs, so they wouldn't mark the power lines going to them if they're not theirs, so. hopefully over the next couple weeks, Trustee Terry, all that'll be straightened up there.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Good job, Public Works. No
Good
safety.
job, Public Works.
Good job, public.
Anybody else?
I can give you one, I'll give one of those headphones on the back as well.
Joe?
Line, the water main down the street from me broke. We had a radial crack on the pipe and they got it fixed and back up and running and I didn't even lose water service, so
See?
very appreciative of Public Works.
Anybody else?
Right,
Anybody
1,000
else?
people left.
Wow, man.
Okay, yeah, I just thank Public Works for all their hard work all the time, it's coming up for the snow season.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate that.
Thank you in advance for the snow you're about to plow.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. It's hard to about to go around.
All right, any new business to come before the board? Nate?
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Breakfast with Santa was this weekend for Lions Club, which is not a village event, of course. But I don't know if any of you have been there. Juan Hernandez had purchased the building next door to the south of the AMVets, for PAKT, doing the karate training and stuff. Did you go there?
Yeah, I went and walked through.
So he was there because he participates with the Lions Club. They provide all the stockings for the kids at the Breakfast with Santa. So he partners with them during the event, but he was giving tours. So I had a chance to go through. When they're ready, they're gonna do a ribbon cutting and we'll do, a grand opening for them. But it was really pretty cool what they did. I mean, you come in, and I had been in there when it was Hamilton, and it was rough. They put all new flooring in. There's gonna be a room to the left where he's gonna put in like some senior events down the road. He has an idea for basically dealing with underserved members of the community, kids that are not involved in sports, kids that have other issues. He wants to do some things with seniors, so there's gonna be a room with some tables and some things seniors can do. In the back, he's gonna create some rooms down the road for kids that are autistic. So there's like gonna be a quiet room, and then there's more of a stimulation room. And he says, of course, we're not licensed here, we're not doing anything with this, but there will be facilities that are built the way they're supposed to be for parents to be able to come in and use these facilities with their kids, where they can go through and kind of work with the kids. The room where they have the karate stuff is really cool. So the flooring they put in, they have some for like a gymnastics type floor, but they have one that's almost like Olympic level. Did you get on that thing? It's about this tall, the foam floor,
Yeah.
that spring floor. That thing's amazing. He says, go on up there. And he says in addition to the kids with karate, they also want to be able to do some fitness stuff for seniors. I says, my God, you could fall on that thing and not kill yourself. They're gonna put in exercise equipment at some point. He says, for people that maybe don't feel as comfortable going to fitness places that, where you're kind of working out with a bunch of jocks and stuff. But he does all of this it'll be down the road, he does it all by donation. Everything would be free to the public. So he's gonna be working on it little by little as they get money and they're able to do things. There is a little kitchen in there already. He says they want to stock it for food. The karate kids kind of use it now, but even for kids in the community that maybe don't have as much and aren't able to avail themselves of some meals and stuff, they're down the road, want to have some things available for them. So he really has some plans for the future, and if you get a chance to stop in, it's pretty cool. But there will be, when he decides that they're ready to go, there will be a grand opening, there'll be a ribbon cutting, and so just a heads up. So if there's nothing else, did you want to make a motion to go into executive session?
Can I make a motion to go into executive session to discuss, I'll make a motion to go into executive session to discuss the resignation of part-time.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call.
Rose?
Yes.
Musician?
Yes.
Benani?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes.